So, y'all want some more stories? Some real life encounters of the paranormal told by real people? Let's watch.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
When I was 3 years old, my family and I moved out of a small apartment complex and into a big house. And during the viewing process of this house, my 3 older siblings and my mother went to go meet with the realtor to go check it out. Everything was going fine. They were mostly upstairs, and they loved everything so far, and then they reached the basement. When my family went into the basement, they saw dry droplets of blood splattered on the floor and on the walls. They found bird feathers, and then they saw a satanic symbol drawn on the wall. Now, the previous owners of this house belonged to a mother and her son, and according to this woman, she mostly lived upstairs. She let her son live in the basement. She said she kind of just let him do his own thing, left him alone because he was an adult. I am the youngest of 4 children, and my siblings are significantly older than I am. So naturally, being the only child in the house, the spirits really took a liking to me. When I was very young, it started off with just I'd be walking through the house and I would hear low-pitched growling coming from behind closed doors, closet doors. I distinctly remember this one time walking past the closet door in the basement, and I put my ear to the door to make sure that I was hearing what I thought I was hearing. And I was. And so I ran upstairs. I grabbed my mom. I was like, you need to go and open the door because there's something in there. And so she opens the door and there's nothing in there. By the time I was age 10, it was no longer just low growling coming from behind closed doors, but it had also become banging on walls, things coming off of the walls. And I remember this one time I was home alone and I was upstairs, and there was just ruckus coming from the basement. It sounded like something was pounding on the wall. It sounded like something had flung off the wall and broke. And I was petrified, and I believed that someone had broken into my house because that's how bad it was. So I ran over to my neighbor's house and I was like, you need to come inside. You need to check to see if someone broke into my house because I think someone did. He goes inside. He goes in the basement. No one's there. And the older I got, the worse it became. So by the age of 13, it was no longer just hearing things, but I was also physically seeing figures in my home. When I was 13, the paranormal activity got increasingly bad, and it was so bad to the point where it was disrupting my sleep. Every single night I was woken up at 3 a.m. on the dot. At first, it was just my TV would be turned on, or I'd hear like really creepy noises coming from my closet.
That's crazy. Witching hours, 3 a.m. She gets waking up every night by the time she turns 13. See, look, that's the thing. They'll start slow, and then they'll increasingly get worse as far as the paranormal activity. I hope it didn't get to the point where they got physical with her.
Or like a dark corner. But then I finally saw it. Now, the way that my room was set up was I had a room upstairs, and my room was at the very end of this long, narrow hallway. And when I was laying down on my pillow in my bed, and my door was open, I could see directly down the hallway. So when I would be woken up at 3 a.m, I'd open my eyes, and I slept with my door open because I was so fucking scared. And when I would look down the hallway, I saw this very tall, dark figure. It was all black. Couldn't see its face, but I knew it was a man. I just knew. This figure, every single night, he would be standing at the end of the hallway, and he would walk slowly down the hallway into my room and stand at the foot of my bed and just try to intimidate me.
No.
My sleep had become so bad, and my mom didn't believe that I was seeing the figures that I was seeing, so she took me to a neurologist. She took me to several sleep studies, several sleep doctors, and of course, they all ran tests on me. The doctors could never come up with anything because my brain activity was normal. So they just conjured it up to me being a child, and it was just my imagination. It was all in my head. When I reached high school, most of my siblings had moved out of the house, and so I ended up taking my older sister's bedroom that was in the basement, which was very brave of me. But at this point in time is when the paranormal activity, it gets spicy. I would still be woken up at 3, 4 in the morning, but this time with physical pain. I would wake up with bruises on my body. I'd wake up with scratches on my body. And
That's crazy. After she moved into the basement, it got worse.
threes. And one time it was so bad that I woke up from being choked. I would hear tapping on the walls, banging on the walls. I'd hear scratches. I would hear creepy ass growls, noises. And I also would often smell rotten eggs. At this point, I figured that whatever was haunting me was still the same entity that it was upstairs, the man I was talking about, but no. This time it was a woman because they took different shifts apparently. I don't fucking know. One of the very first times I had ever seen her, I was having a sleepover with my friends and I was woken up in the middle of the night. Classic. And she was standing in the corner of my bedroom. And she was just standing there, staring down at me. She had a long, tattered dress. Her limbs were all decrepit and broken, and her hair was long and ratty and dark. And I could.
Dang, the voice is no longer sync with the image on the screen. That's the audio is no longer synced. I meant to say.
Not see her face. At this point in time, I had grown so accustomed to this shit that I just didn't care anymore. Like, it was a part of my life and it didn't scare me. I remember waking up, looking at her and being like, I'm going back to sleep. To reiterate, I never really spoke about this with my siblings. Again, my mom didn't believe me and I had already grown indifferent to it. So it was just kind of whatever. But there was this one night. My brother was still living in the house and he was the only sibling of mine living in the home. And it was Black Friday. I think I had to be like 18, I think. And I was at the mall with my friends. It was around 2 something in the morning. And I get a call from him. And he's like, you need to come home right now. I am not going back into the house until you get here. This really freaked me out because my brother has had several experiences with like paranormal shit. And he's never been scared before. So I rush home and he's standing outside, he's pacing, and I'm like, what happened? And he's like, I can't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, okay, let's just go in the house together. So we go in the house, we go up the stairs, and we're in the kitchen. And at this point, like, I'm just trying to ground him, so we're just talking about, like, random things, But finally, we decide that we're going to go back downstairs into the basement into his room. But in order to do that, we have to pass that long, narrow hallway. And my family was sleeping, so all the lights were off. As we're passing the hallway, I hear a very low-pitched growl coming from the end of the hallway. I didn't say anything to my brother. I didn't look at him. I didn't act different. We get downstairs and we get into his room and he looks at me and he says, did you hear that? This was like the ultimate confirmation for me. Like everything that I had been told regarding like it's all in your head, like it's not true, you're just a kid, whatever. It was finally confirmed that no, this was a real fucking experience. Finally, he tells me why he wouldn't go back in the house, like what scared him. And he told me that he was going out for a cigarette. And before he went out the front door, he had a really horrible feeling. He turned around, he looked up the stairs, and it was that woman that I had seen previously. He described her wearing the same thing. He described her looking the same. And he said that she was just standing at the top of the stairs, staring down at him, just trying to scare him. As the years passed, my brother and I eventually got them out of our house. It took a lot of time and intention, but we did it. After that, like, the paranormal activity was not as heavy or dense. I mean, things would move on their own and stuff like that, but it was not at all what it was before. When I was 23, my mom sold the house, and so I moved out. The very night that I moved out and into the new place, I had a dream of the 3 entities, demons that were haunting me, and finally they showed me their faces, and they were essentially like, goodbye, like, this is it, you've been released.
So, do y'all believe her story? At first, and she stated it sounded like she was crazy, right? But then she brought her brother into the picture. I wish he was there to kind of really confirm this for us, that this thing happened. But she said her brother hearing the same sounds that she was hearing confirmed it for her. But then she went on to say that she had that dream after they moved out of that house, that them spirits said the final farewell to her. I don't know. The story was good. The story was good. I just wish we had some evidence. This next clip that we're about to watch, there is some evidence. And it's a bit freaky. But before we get to it, I'm happy to announce that this video is sponsored by none other than my favorite men's face care brand, Tej Henley. Now, fellas, be careful, because your women, they will try to put you on to using the same face care products geared towards women that they use. But tell them, no, you got this part handled, because you're going to use Tej Henley by men for men. And with this being a lot of y'all first time using Tej Henley, I highly recommend y'all starting off with that level 1 system. It gives you everything that you need and nothing that you don't. What you'll get in that first box is the daily face wash, something that you can wake up every morning, just have it sitting right there by the sink, wash your face to get your day going. You get the 2 times per week exfoliating scrub. You heard it, 2 times per week. You use it 2 times to get deep down and get that dirt and grime out of your skin. You also get that AM moisturizer. You put that on first thing in the morning before you walk out the door. It comes with SPF 20, so it can keep your skin hydrated and to block some of those UV rays from the sun. And you also get the PM moisturizer to keep your skin hydrated at night while you sleep. And one of the best things about Tej Henley starter kit is they take the guesswork out. Each box comes with a instruction card that teaches you how much to use, when to use, and how often to use. And since you guys are supporters of this channel, they're offering you guys a better deal than ever before. Now get 40% off of your first box and a free gift. Click that link down below and get started today. Now, back to your video.
Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I have a story and the photo will be at the end. I just want to preface by saying, like, anytime I tell this story to someone new, they never believe me. Even when I show them the photo, they're like, that was edited, that's not real. So, you know, all I can say is, like, I swear on my life that this is true. The photo was not doctored in any way, shape, or form. This happened like a decade ago, and I've been telling the same story and showing the same photo to my friends and family for the past decade. So I promise you this is not fake. I went to school in Dahlonega, Georgia. It's in the North Georgia mountains. There's a lot of history there, a lot of ghost stories. It's like where one of the first major gold rushes happened in America. So my husband and I think he was like my fiance at that point in time, but we went on a ghost tour that was held in our college town. This ghost tour, you go to local buildings and areas that are supposedly haunted, and there's a tour guide who tells you stories, and you know, I mean, it's a typical ghost tour. We were in front of this one house, and I have been taking pictures the whole tour, but for some reason, this house, I just felt like I really needed to capture something. I don't know, I felt the urge to get my phone out and start taking photos. So I ended up kind of walking away from the group. The group was to my right, and I, you know, walked over maybe 20 feet or so to the left.
Yeah. Does this sound like a crow in the background? Was the crow a part of the music that she laid on top of this track? It's a little distracting.
Just to be kind of alone and to get some closer photos of the house. And my husband can attest to this because he stayed with the group. He saw me go off to the left. He saw that no one was near me. I start taking photos of the house. I don't notice anything strange at the time. But it wasn't until like 10 minutes later that I was flipping through photos that I noticed a face in like the bottom left corner of this photo. It almost looks like, it looks like a face with like 2 black holes for eyes, kind of like a woman, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, I show it to the tour guide, and she is shocked because, again, there's no explanation for what it could be. There were no animals around me. Someone asked if it could have been an owl. Like, it wasn't an owl. There were no people around me. So it's just, and it is very clear. When you see the photo, you'll be like, oh, yeah. So we were kind of shocked. The host of the ghost tour was shocked. It's even creepier is that night when we headed back to our car after the ghost tour. It was in a public parking lot, and we're walking up to the car, and I noticed that the passenger seat door is wide open. All the lights are on in the car. And I get up there, and my purse is in the front seat. Just nothing had been taken. The door was just wide open, and the lights were on for no reason. And we definitely did not leave it that way. So that was weird. But anyways, I'm gonna put the photo here so you can see it. We did eventually try to like brighten the photo up to see if you could see anything else, but it still just looks like a head and a neck. So I don't know. Again, it's a story that has stuck with me for the past decade. I still get chills when I think about it. Like I have goosebumps on my arm right now.
I'm not gonna lie. A story that she's been telling for the past decade, you would think that she could tell it a little bit better than this, but hey, I'm here for this picture too.
I feel like someone's watching me too. I'm getting paranoid, but
bruh. Wait, you telling me this? You didn't just take a picture of some woman? This is the thing that you're talking about? That's not just a woman there? That's creepy, because I can't see nothing else. In this image, you see a little bit of light right here, what look like could be some sort of building in the back. It's very, very hard to see, but this? Is this what you... Gotta be. Yeah, no, that's... You can't mistake this. This is something there.
But yeah, that's my ghost story.
Fascinating. On to the next one. Hope they get better.
A ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I've literally watched all the stitches to this video, but this story that I'm about to tell today, even though it happened years ago, still gives me chills, and I feel like it has a lot to do with why I quit my job. So I used to work in long-term care, for those of you that don't know, pretty much a nursing home. I was a certified nursing assistant out of high school. This was my first big girl job, okay? So when I first started, I didn't know a lot about the different types of shifts, but there's pretty much 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. I worked the 7 to 3, which was 7 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As time went on, I slowly started to transition to 3 to 11 to work around my college courses. But every now and then I would pick up an 11 to 7 shift. It didn't take long before I started working there where people were telling me about this one particular resident that had an issue with people of a certain color coming into his room. I didn't have too much interaction with this resident because, like I said, I only worked 7 to 3, and you didn't have to do a lot for him. Just go in and check on him and make sure he was okay. Bring him his food tray. Every now and then he might ask you for help to go to the bathroom, but that was about it. I had heard that this resident could get kind of nasty sometimes. I also heard that he had dementia, so he was like seeing stuff. And I also remember going in his room a couple times and seeing all of the mirrors in his room covered up. This is gonna come back later. So on my first 11 to 7, we'll call this nurse Patty. Patty pulled me aside and she was like, hey, this is the list of people pretty much doing the report for when I first, clocked in, starting my shift. She told me who I had, who was total assist, which I had to do everything for, and who I could pretty much, let. So I noticed that this list had this certain patient's number on it, this certain resident's number on it. His room number was on there. But instead of it saying, just limited assistance or whatever, it was like total assist. So I asked, I'm like, I know I have him during the day and I just go in and check on him and make sure he's okay. If he rings the call light, I'll go in. But other than that, that's about it. When did he become a total assist? So she proceeds to tell me that the night before, he got so scared and so frantic and thought something was in his room that he jumped out of his bed and fell on the floor and did something to his hip. So at this point, currently, he's a total assist, meaning I have to go in, I have to check on him, I have to do everything for him. I said, cool, no problem. I start doing my rounds, I start checking on my people.
Hey, I feel like she's about to say that this man called upon some demons and now he's stuck with them.
Passing out ice water, changing people, as I normally do. Literally not even 15 minutes into my shift, his call light is on. I go in, I make sure everything's okay. As soon as I get in, I kid you not, this man is literally in the fetal position. I walk up to him and I ask him if everything's okay. Obviously, when I walk up to him, I'm very careful because like I stated before, he did not like people of my color coming into his room.
Man, this woman is so pretty to me. I love her style, her hair, Her fit, she's so cute.
During the day, he would make a big deal out of this. Like, if he could get a nurse or a nursing assistant of a different color, he definitely would. He did not pay that any mind. He literally jumped straight into, they're in here, they're after me, please help me. I'm looking like, who is they? He's like, you don't see that little boy behind you? No, I can't say that I do, sir. So it took me literally 15 minutes, and by the grace of God, I was able to calm this man down. We're going to call him Mr. Johnson. After I calmed Mr. Johnson down, I left out of the room, and I went and did my rounds like usual. Literally, not even 10 minutes later, he's back on the call light. I said, okay, maybe he's got to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. So I went in, checked. This time when I went in the room, I noticed that the room was extremely cold. Extremely cold. When I went in there earlier, it was not cold like that. Now, the nursing home, that nursing home in particular was a little colder on the graveyard shift. But when I tell you it was cold to the point where I could see my breath cold. At this point, not only is he in the fetal position, but he is also under the covers, and he is also crying. So I walk up to him. I lift the cover up. I look under the cover. Again, he's sitting under there. We make immediate eye contact, and he's like, help me, please, help me. So I'm trying to calm him down because whatever he's seeing, I'm just not seeing it. So I'm like, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to need for you to cooperate with me. I'm going to need for you to tell me what's going on so I can better assist you and we can get through this shift together. At this point, I'm doing what I've been taught to do for somebody that's going through a dementia or Alzheimer's crisis, which is what I was told that he had. He calms down a little bit and he literally just starts talking. And when I tell you this got crazy quick, it got crazy quick. So he's telling me that when he was younger, about in his 20s or 30s, he was married to a young woman. We're going to call her Maggie. Him and Maggie had just bought a farm. It was literally just him and Maggie. And before you knew it, Maggie got pregnant. Back then, it literally wasn't uncommon to have people of color hired as help to help you on the farm, to help you raise kids, whatever the case may be. This was post-slavery, but people was very much still feeling entitled to doing whatever they wanted to do to people of color. So that's the time frame we in. He tells me that months go down the line, whatever. He goes and he wakes up early one morning. He sees that his wife is a little uncomfortable. She tells him like maybe the baby's coming or whatever. He doesn't think nothing of it. He goes out, get on his tractor, and he does his farmer work. He has a farmhand named Tommy. Tommy is a black man, okay? Around lunch, he's guessing is when his wife went into labor while he was still out in the field. His wife called her mother-in-law, which was Mr. Johnson's mom, her sister-in-law, and his brothers came as well. Everybody's making sure that everything's going okay. The baby is finally born at some point. When the baby is born, I guess...
That baby look like me. That'd be messed up.
Everybody in the room looked around at each other and realized that this baby was not in no way, shape, or form white. The brothers immediately take the baby and they go outside. His mom sits there with her and they go. They snatch this baby and they take the baby outside. Meanwhile, all this is going on. Him and Tommy are still out in the field. They took this baby out into a body of water, and I will not be saying what they did to this baby, but you can only imagine for the time period. Him and Tommy finally wrap up their work for the day and he heads back to the house.
Bro, I believe this story. It's too detailed.
When he gets inside the house, he sees his wife sitting there with his mother. His wife is crying. His mom's just sitting there irritated and pissed off. He asks what's going on, and that's when she gives him the whole rundown that your wife was pretty much sleeping with your field hand, and this is the situation that you're in. So he asks, where's the baby? And the mom says, your brother's taking care of it. Don't worry about it. You need to figure out what you're going to do with her. Meanwhile, this is going on. His brothers have went and got Tommy out of the field. The things that they did to Tommy, again, I cannot describe it here on TikTok, but just imagine the torture and everything that he went through. They literally just left him there in that field. They left him there in the middle of the field. This man proceeds to tell me that when he finally figures out what happened and what his brothers did, they literally acted like nothing ever happened. And every night, Tommy and his son will come and visit him like clockwork. At this point, when I tell you the chills are running up my spine.
It's about hitting my spine as well. That's... What? Oh my God. That's so messed up though, because I wonder if those spirits are also visiting his brothers, because technically he didn't do anything from my understanding. He didn't do anything to the field hand. He didn't do anything to the child. It was the brothers.
literally every hair on my body is sticking up. I don't know what to say. I'm like, when they say frozen in fear, I was frozen in fear. Because it's like, as soon as he told me that story, I could pick up on what was in the room. Before, I couldn't pick up on what it was, but I could immediately feel something else in the room with us.
Wow.
After he told me the story, I finally got him to calm down, and he went to sleep. He slept for literally a couple hours, and at this point, we're at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like clockwork, he hits that call light again. I go back in. I remember walking into the room, and all of the sheets were taken off of the mirrors, which I thought was very strange, because he wanted his mirrors covered up for a reason. I went over to Mr. Johnson, and I touched him to make sure that he was okay, and this man was ice cold. He had died. As I went to leave the room to go contact a nurse, oh my God, I'm getting chills. I'm literally passing by this mirror, and as I'm headed out, on my left is the mirror. I turn and look in the mirror, and behind me, to the far wall of Mr. Johnson's room, I see a taller figure, and I see a shorter figure standing beside this taller figure that I would say is probably about the height of a 5-year-old child. I have never seen nothing like that in my life, ever. And I cannot explain the amount of fear that ran through my body, but I got out of that room so quick, I will tell you that. The crazy part is that when the nurse came in, we could not understand how these mirrors got uncovered. Even the one in the bathroom was uncovered. The one in his room was uncovered. Again, this is a man that just hurt his hip yesterday. There's no reason why he should have been out of bed taking these blankets off this mirror, and I know he wouldn't have done it anyway.
Man, oh my God. Y'all, like, I'm over here about tearing up. This story, I can see it so vividly. I can see everything that she's saying so vividly.
Also, the fact that she felt like he had been dead for longer than I said he had. But again, I had just talked to Mr. Johnson. I had literally just talked to him. So I don't understand how a dead man talks, but maybe y'all can let me know. And when I tell you, baby, I only lasted 3 more days after that. I didn't sleep for days. I said, I'm not coming back. Y'all ain't gotta work.
Oh, man. The stories that these people can tell. Man, it's like... whoo-hoo-wee. Hold on. I gotta wipe the tears away. God, man, this is intense. And I believe every word of it. What I feel happened is that once he told that story and them spirits were in there to hear it, then they were like, this is the final straw. You admitted to what you did or your involvement. Now it's time for you to come with us. They took them dang on sheets off the mirrors themselves, and they ended him. Woo! The chills. Oh, next story. Now this stuff is getting good.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely...
So this is the story that literally started it all. This is the reason why I talk about all the crazy things that I talk about on here. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, my grandmother sent me to the store to buy some butter. I grew up in Colombia. In Colombia, you can just go to the corner store and get either a full stick of butter or like a half a stick of butter. This was on a Saturday, which is extremely important to the story. As I'm making my way over to the corner store, I run into one of my friends from school. We start talking and chatting. Mind you, I'm like 6 or 7. He asked if he can follow me the rest of the way to the store. I told him, of course. We get to the corner store, I get the butter. He walks me back. As he's walking me back, we get to a certain point where he tells me that he can no longer follow. I don't think anything of it, and I continue on home and go on about my day. The next morning, Sunday, my grandma wakes me up and tells me that one of my friends from school had been unalived. I asked her who, and she tells me that it's that same little boy that I had run into the day before. She tells me that he had gone missing on Friday, and his body was found Sunday, but that he had been already gone since like Friday night. I tell her that's impossible, being that I just saw him the day before. I mean, my grandma is open to all of these things, so she believed me that I did in fact see him, but who I saw was clearly not him in the physical form. But to this day, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it. Like, me seeing him was so clear and was literally like me being around just another person. And the fact that he was already gone, it just completely blows my mind.
Like they say, children are more susceptible to the paranormal. That definitely seems like the case here.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So before I tell the story, just know I was young. I was young and I was dumb, and I also was trying to fit in, okay? So, freshman year of college, just moved, first like 2 weeks in the dorm, just moved in. I met this guy I really liked, and he had already had like a really large group of friends at the college. So one night he texts me, he's like, hey, me and a bunch of like people, we're gonna go hang out and, you know, smoke and drink and stuff. Do you want to come? And, you know, I really liked him. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes, of course I'm gonna come. So we roll out. It's like 3 or 4 cars. There's like 12 of us. We're rolling in deep, right? And I'm like, okay, where are we going? He's like, oh, I'm going to take you to this spot. You know, we've been coming here the last couple of days and everything. It's a really cool spot to hang out because, of course, you can't do that stuff in the dorm room. So me, I'm just like happy to ride. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've made friends already. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. And context, it's like 11 o'clock at night. It's super, super dark and it's cloudy. So we're riding out. We leave the college, we're riding out for a while. Like, we're going way out there. And I'm like, where are we going? So finally we come to like this really long road. And there's nothing but like woods surrounding us. It's just one singular road in woods. It's like pitch black. We're riding down this road and we come to this like clearing. And there's one street light. And I'm like, where are we? And so I'm like pulling into the spot, following other cars. And as our headlight like shines on this clearing, I see that it's a graveyard. And I'm trying to be cool about it. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm being too superstitious. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, seem stuck up to these new friends I'm trying to make, you know, first year college, trying to like get in where I fit in. So by the time we get there, there's already a couple of cars there. There's already people hanging out. And the people who rode with us, like in the back seat, they get out. And then the guy that I liked, he's riding up front with me. He gets out. And then I open my door. The moment I open my door, there is this huge gust of cold wind. Mind you, it's August in South Alabama. It's hot. There's this huge gust of cold wind. And then the whole forest surrounding us, the woods, gets completely silent. We're in the South, okay? There are so many bugs and animals and critters that like are chittering and making noises at night. They just stop. It gets like eerily quiet. And the people who are already there, they like stop for a second and they're just like looking around. Everyone like just like pauses because when you're used to hearing like all that ambient noise and then it just completely goes away, it's startling. So I got the door open. I got 1 foot in the car still, 1 foot out of the car. And the guy like is like, come on, let's go. I'm just like, okay. So I get out of the car and I'm out there for like 5 minutes and I'm feeling uneasy, but I'm trying to like push it down. But because I'm feeling uneasy, I'm not participating in like the drinking and smoking.
I wonder, yeah, I wouldn't either for one, but I wonder if at this point did the ambient noise come back?
So everything's good. Everyone's like laughing and dancing and they're playing like music from a speaker and they're all drinking and smoking and stuff. And I'm getting to know like new people. So the speaker that they're playing music on, it just dies. And then we hear like a really weird, like loud noise coming from the woods. We hear a really weird noise. I don't exactly know how to describe it, but right after that noise, we hear what sounds like chains. It sounds like someone's like jangling chains and it's echoing through the whole woods. We're surrounded by the woods. Like there's woods all around us and then there's just the street that we came on. So you can hear it echoing around us like the chains are like surrounding us. I'm like, nope.
Not me.
Nope. I get in my car and I sit in my car. I stay in my car while they're out there doing stuff. They stay out there for like an hour. I'm in my car strolling on my phone. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Snapchat, and suddenly I just hear screaming and everybody runs to their cars. Everybody runs to their car. They get in my car, like, go. I'm like trying to get my keys. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm like, what's happening? They're like, just drive. So we're driving. And as we're driving, I'm like, what's going on? What happened?
Yeah, it was about to be out there and get chainsaw massacred.
And they were like, we heard people. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yes, we heard people. And then it sounded like people just running towards us, like just people running to us. We could hear them. So that happens, right? A couple weeks pass. Everything's fine. And then things weren't fine. Things started going like weird in my dorm room. And at the time, I didn't know this, but weird stuff wasn't just happening to me, it was happening to all my roommates. So in my dorm room, it was 4 of us. Okay, me and my best friend, we shared a dorm room, and then there were 2 other girls. One girl, it was a black girl, she was super spiritual, and the other girl, she was white, and she was like very hardcore Christian. So weird stuff was happening to all of us, but we weren't communicating it with each other. One of the weird things that happened to me and my boyfriend, we were sleeping in the living room because whenever he would, he was my boyfriend at this time.
I was about to say, wait, whoa, you had a boyfriend and you was talking to some other dude? You wilding out here in college. I heard some things though.
Now, so we're in the living room sleeping, and I have a really bad dream. I like sit up because I'm about to get a sip of water, and I look over to the corner and I see like this shadow, like this dark shadow just like glooming towards us. Like, I don't know how to describe where a head would be. It was like turned like that to us, and we're sleeping like on the floor on like sleeping bags. So I scream, and my boyfriend wakes up, and he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I saw something. And he looks at me, and he was just like, what did you see? And I tell him, and so we stay up and we like watch like funny movies to try to lift the mood. And then, you know, the next day he tells me, I didn't want to freak you out even more, but like I had a nightmare. Like right when you screamed, I was having like a terrible nightmare. And he was like, I actually been having like nightmares every night I stay in your dorm room. And then he was like, I think I'm gonna sleep in my own dorm room for a while. So like he didn't sleep in my dorm room for like a couple of weeks after that happened. So things were happening. My best friend, she would be in the dorm room when I went to class, and she'd be the only one in there because she had a different schedule than the rest of us. And she said that the door, and our doors were heavy. These are really heavy doors. She said she would have the door closed and it would just swing open and then close again. Swing open, close again randomly. She got so scared that she ended up going to like she would go to the cafe when no one else was in the dorm room because she was so scared to be by herself in the dorm room. We had stuff on our walls. It wouldn't fall. It would be like thrown across the room. How does something hanging up on a wall, like our lights, like our little Christmas lights, it wouldn't just fall? Thrown across the room. Lights would flicker. Cabinets would open. And one day, me and my best friend, we were like sitting there eating, and we were talking about it, and the spiritual girl and her boyfriend, they walk in, they hear us talking about it, and they're like, weird stuff has been happening to you guys too? We're like, yeah. And they tell us the stuff that's been happening. And then her boyfriend was like, yeah, one night we were out in the living room and she was asleep. And I look over and I see like this dark shadow. And I'm just like, I saw the exact same thing. So he gets oil. He starts anointing and praying over it. He's like, yeah, we got to get whatever's in here out of here. So he's praying. He's pulling out the works, okay? He's blessing every room. He's putting crosses over every door. And while he's doing this, our other roommate walks in and she freaks out. She completely freaks out. She packs up all her stuff. I don't know why. I still don't know why to this day she went crazy. She packs up her stuff. She leaves. She never comes back. Never comes back. So it was good for a while. But then the spiritual girl, like her boyfriend, stopped coming to the dorm room because he got a job. So he wasn't sleeping there. When he stopped coming, things started getting bad again. So fast forward, things are getting weird again. Stuff is starting to happen. Me and my friend, we put a Bible on the desk and we leave it open because that's how scared we are. We're sleeping and we just hear the Bible, boom, close. And we're like, oh, hell no.
Yep, time to go.
No. So we're in theater class and we're talking about this. And this girl hears us. She hears us from across the room. She walks over to us and she says, I did not want to scare you guys, but for the last like month and a half, I have felt like this dark presence around you guys. And she was like, I can feel like this dark presence like around y'all. And we were like, what? And she was like, I don't want to freak you guys out, but like I'm really like spiritually tapped in. And she was like, can I come to your dorm room and see what's going on? And we're like, sure. So we tell all our friends what's going on. So our friends that were at the graveyard, they come too because they want to see what's going on because when they would come over and we would have like game nights and stuff, weird stuff would happen as well. So we walk into the dorm room. She comes in last. As soon as she comes in the room, like she steps over the threshold into the room, the lights flicker. Like, and I'm not talking about like, no, I'm like, like the lights are flickering, going crazy. And she's a white girl. She has really like dark red hair. We can see the hair on her arms just like stand up. Like we could see it. We could see the hair on the backs of her neck. She just got like chills all over her entire body. And she was like, there's a spirit here. And she was like, this spirit is not happy that I'm in this room. So she's like going through the entire dorm room.
Bro, this could be a movie. Oh man, this would make for such a good movie. Ah, crap. I need to reach out to this girl. I could use some of my connections to potentially make this a movie. Oh my God, this is so good.
Right? And she gets to my bed, my side of the dorm room, and the doors, both doors, our room door and our other roommate's room doors, open and close, open and close, open and close. At this point, everyone's like screaming, freaking out. And she starts talking to the spirit, and she's like, I know you're scared, but you need to calm down. Like, you're okay, calm down. And then everything just stops. And it just feels so calm. And she's like talking to the spirit, and we're just like looking. We're looking. She's like, okay, we need to get her back. And we're like, what? Get who back? And she was like, you need to take her back to her gravesite. And we were like, what? So we all get in the car. We take it back to the gravesite, and she finds this unmarked grave, and she puts her spirit.
Oh, it's what? It just ended there. No. If y'all want me to see if there's a part 2, let me know. We'll do a part 2 at a later time. But man, clearly there was something there that attached itself to these women. And man, did it freak them out. Look, I couldn't imagine.
A ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable, but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, when I was younger, probably like 13, 14, 15 years old, somewhere around that time, I would always fall asleep on the couch at night watching TV. I didn't have a TV in my bedroom, so I would fall asleep on the couch at night watching TV. And my mom would always like yell at me the next day about sleeping on the couch. Like, when you're sleepy, go to bed. Well, one night, I was babysitting my little cousin. He was about like 1 or 2. And we both fell asleep on the couch watching TV, right? So he's sleeping behind me on the couch so that he doesn't fall off and hurt himself. And, you know, I fall asleep. And at some point in the night, I wake up. And when I wake up, my little cousin is no longer like behind me. He is now kind of like laying over my body, kind of hanging off the couch, right? And so I'm like, whoa, what's this kid doing, right? So I pick him up, I put him back, I fall asleep again. Later on, I wake up again, right? And I don't know what's waking me up, right? I just know I'm waking up, right? Kind of, I don't know. I like almost like intuitively I'm waking up. And this time when I wake up, this kid is now down the couch, head facing the opposite direction of me, down by my knees, right? Now he's down by my knees. And I'm like, what is going on with this kid? Like, he never sleeps crazy like this. I've never had this happen with him. So I just get up, I get him, I put him back. You know, he's not awake, he's knocked out, he's, you know, hard asleep. And then I go back to sleep. So then a little bit later, I wake up for a third time. This time, my little cousin is all the way down the couch, body hanging over the arm of the couch on the opposite end, like just hanging over it, right? And at this point, I'm like freaked out because I'm like, there's no way this kid is getting up and moving himself in these weird positions. And it's freaking me out. And I'm more like, I feel like someone is trying to steal my baby cousin. And so I wake up, my little crazy teenage self, I wake up, I get him, I put him back, I sit up, and I just kind of stay awake. I'm like convinced that something's trying to steal my baby. I don't know what, but I'm going to stay awake because it's not happening on my watch, right? So I stay up all night. The next day I tell my mom, and she's all like, Ebony, you're not supposed to be sleeping on the couch anyway, right? That's kind of how she
I wonder if it could be one of those things where, you know, she was like, I'm going to watch him, not only to make sure nobody's taking him, but to make sure he's not doing this himself.
Takes it, right? So, whatever. Fast forward. I fall asleep on the couch by myself one day. And for some reason, in the middle of the night, I wake up. And when I wake up and I look over, there is this little short, gremlin-looking monster person, like really, really short, tall enough that my face laying down on the couch and his face are level, just standing in front of me, just staring at me. I mean, just staring, not saying anything, not moving, but just like staring me down. I freak out. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. I freak out. I grab the cover. I turn my back to it. I cover my head, and I just start to pray. I just start praying all the prayers my grandma ever taught me. Just praying. And I guess I must have prayed and laid there like, if I don't move and it can't see my face, it can't hurt me type deal until I fell asleep. And then the next day I woke up and I told my mom. And she was like, Ebony, you probably just had a really bad dream. That probably was a nightmare. It probably just felt like it was real. And I was...
Her mama stayed being defensive.
Like, no, it was real. And I'm convinced that whatever that was tried to steal my baby cousin. And I don't care who believes me. I don't care if my mom believed me. I don't care if she thinks I had a nightmare. I never fell asleep on that couch again. And I know something was trying to steal my baby cousin that night. That's all I gotta say.
That was an interesting little story she told there. I don't really know what to make of it. What are y'all thoughts? I'm gonna let y'all tell me what y'all thoughts are down in the comment section below. Interesting. All right, y'all, this is the last one. Let's hear it.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I debated for a long time on if I even wanted to tell this story because, quite frankly, every time I tell it, it just creeps me out all over again. So I kind of try to just not think about it. But a few years ago, our family experienced one of the scariest things I've ever experienced in my nearly 37 years of life. So back in 2020, my oldest son had just turned 3 around this time. And up until this point, he had been an amazing sleeper. He was the type of kid who you could say, okay, Lawson, it's bedtime. And he'd take himself to his room. He'd soothe himself to sleep. He was a great sleeper. He slept all through the night. And I guess kind of to backtrack, it's maybe mildly important. I don't know how big of a role this doll really plays into the story or if she's just a coincidence, but I had received a doll from an aunt that had been passed down in my family. Originally, it belonged to my great-great-grandmother and kind of cycled through every girl in our family. Everybody hates this doll. It's also important to note. Everybody always claimed that this doll is haunted. I didn't know how much I really believed that. Yes, it's creepy because it's an old creepy doll. And I'll see if I can find a picture of it and post it at the end of this video. But when it ended up with us, my oldest son did love this doll, played with it all the time, talked to it all the time. And not long after he started interacting with this doll, did all of this happen. So anyway, one night he has a terrible nightmare. He's screaming, crying, won't go back to sleep, needs me or my husband with him. So I go to him, I lay down with him in his room, and I'm like, it's okay, buddy, you know, I'm here, I'm gonna lay with you, I'll be with you tonight, you don't have to be scared. And the whole time I'm laying with him, trying to get him to go back to sleep, he is like staring over my shoulder off into the corner of his room. And I go to turn my head to see what he's staring at, and he stops my face with his hands. He's like, no, mommy, don't look at him. He's really scary. So I'm like, all right, let's go lay down in my bed. So I carry him and all of his things. We go lay down in my bed. And he's still just not very settled, still seems really shaken up. I'm like, buddy, you're in mommy and daddy's bed. You're safe now. It's fine. Let's go back to sleep. He's like, I know, but now he's staring at me from over there, a corner in my room. And this is just the beginning of a situation that went on for nearly a year. So after this, almost every single night, he's having terrible nightmares, and it gets to a point where he absolutely refuses to go in He won't even go in his room to play. He won't even go in his room to get a toy out. If there's a toy in there that he wants, he will not go in his room alone. And he's also telling us in vivid detail the same story every single night, that he is seeing something crawl out of his closet and stand by his window, which is right next to his bed, and it's staring at him like this. And he says it's trying to eat him. He tells us this every single night, and this goes on for,
it's giving Monsters Inc. vibe.
Months and months. We're all exhausted. None of us are sleeping well because of this. And one night, I remember that we have leftover holy water from Lawson's baptism. So I'm like, you know what? We don't have anything to lose at this point. So I sprinkle it around his room. I create like a whole barrier around his bed, basically. Just
With holy water, heck, you need to use some salt for that. Use a salt barrier
to see what happens. Like I said, we had nothing to lose at this point. And believe it or not, he actually slept better that night. But my youngest son, who was just a baby at the time, he has a horrible night sleeping. He's up screaming, seems scared, creeped out, whatever. And then the next day, when I have to take Lawson to preschool, he refuses to go. And typically he loved school at this time, but he refuses to go because he does not want his baby brother left alone. He is terrified and makes me promise that I won't leave his baby brother alone in his bedroom. I have to be with him all day. And I have to promise him, like, buddy, he's gonna be okay. I'm gonna be with him the whole time. He won't be left alone. Like, everything's gonna be okay. And at this point, you know, I'm really freaked out at this point. I had also taken a picture of my husband on the monitor in Lawson's bedroom, where he had been laying on the floor holding Lawson's hand, trying to help him fall asleep. And I didn't notice it until after I took the picture, but you can see like the shadow of a hand or a claw like holding my husband's shoulder as he holds Lawson's hand, trying to help him fall asleep. And I'll post that picture too, but that, even just thinking about it, gave me the worst chills, like just to my core.
Let me see that picture.
Freaked me out. This was also around the time that filter was trending on TikTok, where people were kind of walking around their house with this filter, and then if the temperature changed colors, that was supposed to show you if your house was haunted or not. And so of course I'm like, oh, just for shits and giggles, let's see what pops up on here. I take it in Lawson's bedroom, not seeing anything. So then I take it into the closet where he always says he's seeing this thing come out of. And of course it lights up like a Christmas tree. And I try to rationalize it away, but at this point, like I said, we're all just so creeped out. And this has gone on for nearly a year at this point. So we end up contacting a priest, and you know, he's telling us that sometimes dark spirits or evil things can attach themselves to objects. He's asking us, you know, if we brought anything new into the house. I mentioned the doll. I mentioned that, you know, people in my family have said creepy things have happened where this doll is surrounded, but I mean, I don't really know, you know? So he does recommend me giving him the doll so that he can dispose of it properly. So we make arrangements to do that. Then he asked me if Lawson is calling this thing by any specific name. And I'm like, he is actually. He calls this thing Bow. And he goes, well, there is actually a demon. And I don't want to say his name because he told me that, you know, names hold power. But there is a powerful demon, and his name is Baal. And he has like a thing for firstborn male children, all of this stuff. And it creeped me out so bad. learning the information about this demon. I just can't tell you how unsettling it was. We get rid of the doll. We pass the doll off to the priest. He gives us some very specific instructions on very specific things to say and do around our house. He has us open a Bible to a very specific passage and then place this open Bible in the closet and leave it there. And eventually things do calm down. He starts sleeping a little better at night. He's not talking about it every day. But even still to this day, if things have gotten better, he doesn't mention it, but he still won't sleep in that room without somebody with him. He's nearly 7. He's just turned 7 at this point and wants somebody still to sleep in bed with him and help him fall asleep. And if you even mention the name Bao or Baal, he freaks out. We're all still shaken up by it. But anyway, so that's our creepy ghost story.
All these years later, and this boy still recalls what was going on when he was so young. Oh man, and that made so much sense that he wanted to protect his little brother, because he knew the spirit was after him. But when the mom used that holy water, that spirit more than likely was going to try to attach itself to the next best thing. And that was his little brother. He was trying to protect his little brother for that reason. But y'all, that is it. That is it. If y'all would like some more of these, because this is the second one. We've done one of these before. Comment down below more, please. And I will make sure I find some more of these ghost stories, of these paranormal stories, these paranormal encounters. And we'll knock them out right here on this channel. But anyway, leave your thoughts, comments, and opinions down below. And I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. See ya.